Let's talk football. Week 3 was a weekend of overs, and that's going to factor a lot into our discussion today as we look at NFL week number 4. A lot of games here coming up on Sunday, obviously a Monday night game as well. We're going to talk about every single game. I'm going to go through the card, give you my analysis, and I've got I think 7 picks this week, and I'm going to tell you why I like these 7 picks, including a teaser. I think there's 2 sides, and then there are 4 totals. So here we go. Let's start with Indianapolis is traveling to Chicago. The Colts are favored by 2.5, jaded to minus 120 there, and the total is 43. Very interesting matchup here with the unbeaten Bears, who came back last week at Atlanta with Foles coming in at quarterback in the fourth quarter and absolutely turning into a different team. This is the second time the Bears have come back and erased 2 touchdown-plus deficits, both on the road, strangely enough, and now they're a perfect 3-0. And then they're catching points at home. So this is pretty amazing. The Colts are also they're 2-1. They should be 3-0. They lost the opener at Jacksonville, but they've had a cupcake schedule, the Colts have, and this is a very intriguing matchup. Again, a 2-1 team and a 3-0 team, but the 2-1 team is favored here. So I really don't have a side. I guess I would have to maybe like the Bears because of catching some points here, but I think the better play is the over, and the reason is because the NFL is a very different situation this year. We could do a whole show on why overs are hitting. So anytime we see a fairly low total on a game, such as this one at 43, this is going to catch my attention just to almost blindly bet it over. Now, you actually have Foles starting, experienced quarterback, used to big games. Obviously, Rivers in Indianapolis speaks for himself. So you've got, the quarterback pedigrees on both sides, and I just see this as a very low total in today's, or I should say, this season's NFL. So I'm going to go over the 43 in that first game. New Orleans is traveling to Detroit. The Saints are a disappointment here. They're 1-2, and the Lions are 1-2 as well. They should be 2-1, but they blew that opener at the Bears. The Saints are laying 3. The total is 54. This is a game where I really just don't have any opinion. I cannot trust the Saints. They just have not looked crisp. The defense has really been run over to a great extent by, of course, Green Bay. That's going to do it to teams, and the Saints just haven't looked. Again, that we haven't seen them shift into high gear this season. So I really can't back with the Saints on the road here, laying points. And the Lions, who have a reputation of just being soft. They whipped up on Arizona last week, winning 26-23. And that game really told me that team has not given up, obviously, and they still could be in the playoff race. And so I think that the Lions here catching 3 might even be worth a look based on, a lot of factors. And again, the Saints just don't deserve to be laying points on the road based on what I've seen this season. So, again, I'm going to pass on the game, but I would lean toward the Lions getting a field goal at home. Arizona traveling to Carolina. The Cardinals are favored by 3.5, coming off a very disappointing home loss. Most people thought that the Cardinals would pretty much whip up on the Lions last week. That didn't happen. In fact, the offense was stymied for the Cardinals. So they're laying 3.5. The reason is Carolina coming off a win last week, surprise win, I should say, playing I think the Chargers it was. And now Carolina's coming back home, but they just absolutely are decimated with defensive injuries. The Panthers are. So I think that this combination here, one team coming off the win, the other team coming off the loss, the Cardinals clearly a better team, certainly on offense here. And they're going to they have enough weapons, I think, to take advantage of a decimated, particularly in the secondary, Carolina team. So I'm going to lay the 3.5 here. That total is 51, by the way. Game could fly over as well, but I do think the better play here is probably to take the Cardinals. Much as I don't like laying points on the road, I think the Cardinals are in this spot. It's justified to do so. Jacksonville's traveling to Cincinnati. The Bengals are laying 2.5, and the total is minus. Again, Cincinnati is minus 2.5. The total is 49. This is a game where I just simply like the over, and one of the reasons why is when you have 2 teams that are kind of young, up-and-coming teams with kind of a loose, nothing to lose mentality. I mean, no one expects the Bengals to make the playoffs this season, for example. And really the same is true for the Jaguars. So you'll see the ball thrown a lot more and a lot more, taking of chances. We saw that in last night's New York Jets-Denver game. Again, no one's going to give those two offenses a lot of credit, but they exploded for like 70 points. So I'm not saying the 70 are going to be scored here, but I think, again, given the makeup of this year's NFL, and then the composition of teams, and some really horrid defenses here, Bengals and Jaguars. These are the cat teams, and one of them's going to, maybe both, is not going to look good defensively. So I think 49, this total probably shouldn't be much higher than that, but I do believe, again, you're seeing a lot of 50s and totals in the mid 50s. I almost, again, just blindly go over anytime you get a fairly low total here. So until they start showing me some defense on one side of the ball. Now, this is also a situation where I think you can take the dog, not with 2.5. However, I do believe you can tease. You should tease the Jaguars here because they're getting 2.5. So you'll catch what's called the Wong teaser. I've talked about this before, written about it. It's a basic strategy teaser. It means you basically are teasing, taking 2.5, and you're catching all those key numbers: 3, 4, 6, and 7. And so you're going to basically get the Jaguars as a dog, getting 8.5 on the teaser. So I'm going to also tease the Jaguars, and I'll put the other team in there at the end of the show. I'll tell you more about that. Cleveland's playing at Dallas. Cowboys are -4.5, total of 56. Wow, what a high total that is. Now, these are two teams that the Browns have looked probably better, really. Dallas, in fact, has really not played a solid game in any of their 3 games this season. They should have lost the Atlanta game. The Cowboys should be 0-3. They should be 0-3 right now. They were down by 15 last week at Seattle. They were down by, I think, 15 or 16 to the Falcons the week before. And, of course, they lost the opener to the Rams. So Dallas has not put together a really good game here. Offensively, they're the number 1 team in the NFL. Again, so typical of the Cowboys. Statistically, they dominate. On paper, this team looks so damn powerful. But the defense has been just absolutely horrid for the Cowboys this season. And so that's why they're 1-2, and they should be 0-3. Meanwhile, the Browns are playing with a little more confidence now. And I do believe the Cleveland, will come in here and probably give Dallas a pretty good game. This is not a pushover for the Cowboys, which is why you're seeing, maybe some of the odds makers in the public are starting to fall out of love with the Cowboys, because this is a team that's not covering spreads. So laying 4.5, this game would have been 6.5 or 7. Say, a week or two ago. But again, there's now mistrust in the Cowboys. So I'm certainly not going to bite on the Cowboys, although that's tempting. Maybe at 3.5 or something, or 4, I might. But probably not. And again, the Browns could be worth a look here. But I think there's greener pastures elsewhere. So I'm passing on the Dallas Browns game. Minnesota's traveling to Houston. Just stunning here. These are 2 playoff teams from last season. 2 playoff teams from last season. They both, are supposed to be coming into the season as maybe co-favorites to win their division, and they're both 0-3. So that's just stunning, first of all. So it's one of these teams will get their first win. The odds makers think it's going to be Houston Texans at -4. So the Vikings have basically just fallen off a cliff here. There's very little public support for the Vikings, especially coming off a really tough loss last week at home playing Tennessee, where they came back and it was just really tough. And then the Texans also playing at Pittsburgh last week. That was a back and forth game, and they could have won, the Texans, but they ended up losing a close game there. So these two teams are just massively disappointing in every way, offensively, defensively. And so I don't know what to do here. I guess take the points if you have to make a play, because you really don't know what team's going to show up. But that Minnesota defense has been atrocious this season. So I don't see any reason that maybe the Texans should be laying this many points at 4, maybe 3. So I would be tempted to play the Vikings here, but man, I just can't do it. I got burned by the Vikings early in the season, and again, until I see a team put a solid game together, I'm going to lay off of them. The total of 53.5. Do you want to bet an under in the NFL this season? I mean, if you do, you're jumping into a fire. So I don't know if I want to do that either. I probably would have leaned under on this game, but I can't do it this week, not after what I've seen the first 3 weeks. Seattle's traveling to the Miami Dolphins. Oh, and I wanted to bet the Miami Dolphins so bad because it was really a good what's called situational play here. the Seattle Seahawks traveling across the country off a big win, beating the Cowboys last week at home. It's kind of set up for what you call a classic letdown. And the Miami Dolphins coming off the victory where they beat Jacksonville last Thursday night, and now they have 10 days rest. And Miami's played pretty good ball. They lost, at home to Buffalo, but there's no shame in that, losing by, I think, a field goal there. So the Miami Dolphins are just very live here. And then Seattle's decimated in its secondary. So the Fitzpatrick, if he doesn't throw 3 or 4 interceptions like he did in the opener at New England, Fitzpatrick's going to complete some passes. And so the Miami Dolphins should keep this game close. Seattle's laying 6. I'm seeing 5.5 here in Las Vegas in a lot of spots. And I think it spreads. We've got it, the Canadian site, Spreads.ca. I think it's 5.5 right now. That could change as we reach game time. I think money will come in actually on the Dolphins here. I think people are seeing what I'm seeing, that this is a really big letdown spot, I think, for the Seattle Seahawks. Total of 54. Tempted to go over here just again because of the blind bet of the over, and they're both going to be throwing the hell out of the ball. And you've got, again, some defensive secondary weaknesses really with both clubs. So I lean over, and I certainly lean toward taking the points with the Dolphins, but no official play there. Well, again, I'll look for better spots. The LA Chargers are traveling to Tampa Bay. I don't understand this line at all. The Bucs are laying 7 to the Chargers, and there's a big overreaction here. The Bucs looked very good at Denver last week, really dominated the game, and the Chargers didn't look good at all. So again, there's I think a really big overreaction here. I think Tampa should be favored by maybe 5 here or something. But again, I just don't want to touch the game. I probably would take the Chargers, but again, their quarterback situation is wishy-washy, and it's really hard to have a lot of confidence right now in the Chargers. 42.5 is the total, though, and again, I'm going to go back to what I said 4 or 5 times already, is that I'm just going to bet these games over, because certainly with Tampa Bay, I could see them throwing the hell out of the ball, and then the Chargers could be in a catch-up mode, could have turnovers. Anyway, 42.5 in this year's NFL is a very low total. That would be an average total, 3 or 4 years ago. Now it's just almost ridiculously low. I'm betting over the 42.5 on the Chargers-Buccaneers game. Pittsburgh and Tennessee, of course, big news this week was the COVID crisis had hit the Titans. So this will be off the board. We have no game; it's postponed. We'll skip on down to Baltimore and Washington, and the Ravens are just obviously going to be a huge favorite here. It was open at 12, and now it's the Ravens minus 14. The total is 45.5. Ravens coming off just a massively disappointing Monday night loss at home to the Kansas City Chiefs. That was such a big game for them. I'm really worried about how they react here, because this, talk about like opposites here. You're going to playing the biggest game of the year, Monday Night Football at home against the defending Super Bowl champions, and you're not even competitive pretty much in that game. The Ravens aren't. Now they play one of the worst teams in the NFL, certainly one of the worst projected teams coming in to this season, the Redskins. I keep saying the Redskins. I'm sorry. It's going to take me a few years to probably get past that. The Washington football team, is catching 2 touchdowns. Very tempting to play the Redskins. Here I go again. Tempted to play the Washington football team here, getting 2 touchdowns. In fact, I think a lot of the wise guys are, that's what they're called, the sharp bettors, in other words, will be on the Washington team here, catching 2 full touchdowns at home. The anticipation here is that the Ravens just are going to maybe have a little bit of a hangover from a short week, losing a big game, and then maybe they don't really prepare as much for Washington here. So I'm really tempted to take the 14. That's probably, a marginal play for me. I think over is also a solid play. Again, I keep repeating myself, but 45.5 in this year's NFL. Lamar Jackson is going to run wild in this game. I would think he is going to run and pass. And, if you're a fantasy player, there's probably maybe one of the top picks of the week would be Lamar Jackson to spot. Even though the Washington is supposed to have an excellent defensive line that's ranked 2 or 3 in the league, I get that. I'm totally on board with that. That's the only strength of this team. But I think this game just goes over just for a lot of reasons. And so I will go over and then lean very strongly toward Washington catching 14. By the way, you've got to get 14 there, not 13.5, all right? New York Giants are traveling to the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are laying 13, and the total is 48. This is a game that I normally would go over for the reasons I've said before, but the Giants' offense is just flat. It just stinks. The offensive line is porous. They don't run block. They don't pass block. Barkley is out for the season. You got a quarterback with now they're talking about shuffling the deck chairs on that Titanic there. I mean, this is already a team that's already in disarray. Fortunately, in New York, the Jets have overshadowed them as the worst team in the city or in the area. So I don't think the heat is quite as much on the Giants as it normally would be because the Giants are acknowledged now as the worst team in the NFL. So I don't think the cries for fire the coach and change the quarterback and this and that, or maybe a lot of people just don't care anymore about the Giants because they've just given up. So I don't know what kind of a mindset this creates for the New York Giants going cross country here. Here's the problem with the Rams, though. They've been on the road 2 straight weeks. They come home, and I'm not sure they take the Giants that seriously. The Rams are this team they could run up the score. They could do that very easily, or they could just sleepwalk through a game and win, 27 to 17, something like that, and not get the cover. So I really even though I was really impressed with their comeback last week, the Rams are also down by 3 touchdowns at Buffalo. So maybe that team, I don't know quite yet. This is not a good enough team to be laying nearly 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about the Rams. So I'm passing on this game. Also, no play in the total. New England at Kansas City. Wow, this is almost doesn't get any better than this one. The Chiefs are laying 7. Again, the Chiefs are going to start laying just massive points because there's so much optimism here with his team, multi-dimensional, certainly in offense, defending Super Bowl champions, and now they have a defense that plays pretty darn well. It just seems to get better and better. So you're going to see the Chiefs. This is going to be one of the lower total spreads you'll see on a Chiefs game. The Patriots have played very good football as well. Really, in 3 games, they lost 1 game at Seattle. No shame in that, losing by, I think it was 4 points. But the Patriots here catching 7 would be very tempting normally. But I am not stepping in front of that freight train called the Kansas City Chiefs. You'd have to give me, at least double digits, I think, at this point. I'm trying to – Baltimore, for example, last week, that was a team – I just thought that maybe Baltimore that was their – not Super Bowl in the sense of they had something to prove there, and Baltimore did not, or Kansas City just played their ass off. And even coming off a short week, I just think Kansas City's pedigree this is a full, complete football team, and I can't even take 7 with the dog there, even though I would have normally gone that way. The Buffalo Bills traveling here to Las Vegas. Bills are laying 3. When I saw this line, I went, what? The Bills are favored on the road. Now, nothing wrong with that because the Bills are 3-0, and they've looked damn good, especially on offense. The surprise has been Josh Allen, the quarterback, and the Bills have played, again, well above, I think, expectations, even though now there's some projections they may win that division, even though the Patriots may have something to say about that. But the Raiders, last week they lost at New England, so that was their first loss of the season with the Las Vegas Raiders, but they played so well in that home opener that I'm thinking that there's something about the stadium that a lot of excitement here, certainly in the city of Las Vegas, where I'm doing this show from. And so I do believe that there's an infectious attitude that we can win with the Raiders that I haven't seen certainly in previous years with this team. I don't know if it wears off, and then once they start losing a few games, maybe, hey, we're just a 500 team and we don't maybe play as well. But right now, the optimism is still there with the Raiders. And I think catching three, not 2.5, you got to get 3. But if you're catching 3 with the Raiders here against Buffalo, even though Buffalo is a very solid team, I think you just have to take the field goal. So my play here will be the Las Vegas Raiders +3. Another late game is Philadelphia traveling to San Francisco. Big story on both these teams was injuries, but San Francisco has an excuse here, losing, I think, 9 out of their 22 starters. 9 of them were, they didn't play last week. And then Philadelphia, what in the hell is wrong with the Eagles? That is absolutely just a team that has no excuse. I know they had injuries, but there's no way you should be losing these kind of games. Now they tied, I think, the Bengals game, so they're not 0-3, I think I said, but they're 0-2-1. But the problem, there's something wrong in Philadelphia right now. And I normally, again, would probably try to catch the field goal, the touchdown with the Eagles +7. Not here. even though San Francisco is decimated still with injuries. Garoppolo, by the way, I think is getting the start here because we saw the line go from it opened because there was uncertainty about that. It was 49ers -3. It's now up to 6.5 and 7 in a lot of spots here. So maybe you take the Eagles at +7 if you just want to throw a dice. I mean, go ahead, be my guest. I'm walking away from that crap table, but I'm also not going to lay the 7 either. I am going to play the over though. 45 is the total. I've already said it. I'm not going to say it again. Over anything with a fairly low total, below average total this year, just bet it over. I think at the very worst, you break even and probably make a little money just blind betting it. So the last game of the week is the Monday Night Football game. The horrid Atlanta Falcons, who was my best bet last week. My best bets are 2-1 so far, and the Falcons completely destroyed me, blowing a 15-point lead at home to the Bears. I'm still mad about that one. But the Packers, who wants to get in front of the Packers right now? I don't have their game totals in front of me, but they scored, 43, 37, and 38 or something. I mean, this in the entire history of the Green Bay Packers franchise, which is like 100 years, they've never scored this many points in their first 3 games. And a lot of people thought, the Packers will have a letdown this season. Boy, that offense isn't letting down. They're just lighting it up, and they beat some good teams, including the Saints last week. They just ran over the Saints. So, I'm not – and by the way, the Falcons may have, except for the New York Jets, maybe the worst defense in the NFL. So what in the hell are the Packers going to do to the Falcons on Monday Night Football at home? The only issue is, I was looking at things like the props and the team total for the Packers. I was looking at that real carefully. Thing is, do you want to go over like 34 for the team total? Maybe Aaron Rodgers kind of has an off night, or they just mail it in and win by 7 or something here. I'm just not going to lay those points with the Packers, even though it looks so obvious. I think the better player is to do the following. Even though, by the way, I have to say something about the Falcons. If you were to take the Falcons, say the first half of these games, they were up by 15 to the Cowboys. Last week they were up, was it 26 to, I forgot the score, 26-10 I think it was. They're up by 15 or 16 on the Bears. This is a horrible fourth quarter team. Dating back to the Super Bowl loss, 3 seasons ago. There's something wrong with the Falcons and that coaching staff, the players. Matt Ryan is a horrid fourth quarter quarterback. I'm not betting the Falcons with play money. There's no way I'd touch them right now. But I also don't want to necessarily lay the 7 here. But I do think you can take the Packers on that teaser, taking the Packers at 7, going all the way down to 1 and saying, hey, Packers, just win the game for me, okay, baby? Just win. Just win the game at -1. So I mentioned earlier my play on the Jacksonville Jaguars as being one part of the teaser. Here's the second part of the teaser. You got Monday Night Football action, taking the Green Bay Packers on the teaser. A lot of people will do that. I don't know how the Packers don't, certainly win this game and then maybe just roll up some points, because I don't know who wants to get in front of that offense the way it's going. So let me review my plays again. We have, again, the Indianapolis Chicago Bear game going over 42.5. The Arizona Cardinals -3.5 versus the Panthers. I like Arizona -3.5. That's my best bet of the week, by the way. I don't usually play sides as my best bet, but I think the Cardinals just whip ass here. I think they just come out mad and throwing, and they're going to score some points. The LA Chargers Tampa Bay Bucks game to go over 42.5. The Baltimore-Washington game to go over 45.5. The Las Vegas Raiders catching 3 at home. Shocking line there against the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to take the home dog here, the Raiders. And then Philadelphia-San Francisco, total of 45. We're going over that number. Last one, of course, that teaser. The Green Bay Packers on Monday night, -1. The Jacksonville Jaguars at +8.5. So this is week number 4 in the NFL. Let's win some money, do some good, have a lot of fun. And I'm going to be back here at week 5. I try to do this every Friday or Saturday. And so check us out at Pointspreads.ca. We have news and updates there every single day. Number of stories. I write some stories. We have a lot of really gifted handicappers and sports journalists that post really good stuff. It's always related to gambling. So even if you just want to see check out what's going on in golf or basketball or tennis or MMA or certainly football, man, check out Pointspreads.ca. And then if you have a few extra bucks, go ahead and go over to spreads.ca and lay down some coin on hopefully some of these picks and win some money. I'm Nolan Dalla. We'll see you next week for Let's Talk Football.